Just imagine an urban center going about business as usual when a sudden, blinding flash rips through the skyline. If you were a healthcare leader managing a hospital a few miles away, what is your immediate priority in those first 5 minutes? Effectively managing the resulting mass casualty event requires a precise understanding of the specific timeline of hazards triggered by the blast. The first hazard is the blast effect. Traveling at the speed of sound, a massive pressure shockwave flattens structures, turning glass and debris into lethal projectiles, resulting in severe blunt and penetrating trauma. Simultaneously, thermal radiation is released. The detonation generates a burst of heat so intense it ignites secondary fires and causes severe flash burns to anyone exposed, extending the casualty zone for miles. Finally, there is the initial radiation. This is an invisible, instantaneous burst of gamma rays and neutrons that bombards anyone near ground zero. While these three forces create a catastrophic initial trauma event, the true challenge for public health and hospital management begins after the explosion. The primary driver of the long-term medical crisis following a nuclear event is fallout. When a detonation occurs near ground level, the explosion acts like a vacuum. Thousands of tons of dirt, pulverized infrastructure, and debris are drawn up the stem of the cloud and mixed straight into the radioactive byproducts of the weapon. High in the atmosphere, the vaporized material cools and condenses, binding with soil to form heavy, radioactive particles. Upper winds catch these descending particles, carrying them horizontally to create a downwind plume that contaminates infrastructure and residential areas. The initial blast lasts for seconds, but the fallout creates a prolonged environmental hazard that dictates the long-term survival of the population. The presence of fallout dictates a shift in hospital operations, where the integrity of the facility itself becomes a primary medical objective. Protecting the population from radioactive dust requires maximizing dense material, like concrete, steel, or earth, between individuals and the settling particles, prioritizing immediate sheltering over evacuation. For a hospital, this means physically securing the facility. Healthcare managers must immediately shut down external ventilation systems to prevent radioactive dust from being pulled into the internal atmosphere. To protect sterile trauma bays, hospitals must establish strict exterior decontamination zones. These zones serve as a physical barrier where victims are screened and washed before they are permitted to enter the facility. Effective leadership also requires correcting common clinical misconceptions regarding the timeline of a nuclear disaster. First, acute radiation syndrome is a delayed threat. The cellular damage often takes days or weeks to clinically manifest in patients, meaning they may appear healthy upon arrival. Second, the environment remains persistently hazardous after the kinetic event ends. The dust settling on the pavement outside continues to emit radiation, requiring ongoing protection for staff and patients. Mass survival depends on the immediate execution of these structural and clinical interventions, ideally finalized before the first particles reach the ground. A nuclear detonation creates an incredibly complex, multi-hazard mass casualty scenario, placing a severe surge capacity strain on any hospital system. This event requires healthcare systems to manage kinetic trauma, severe thermal burns, and radiation exposure simultaneously. Despite the immediate chaos of treating physical injuries, adhering to early protection and contamination protocols regarding fallout is what saves the most lives over time. While immediate trauma care addresses the kinetic impact, the overall survival of the community hinges on how effectively the medical system manages the radioactive environment left behind.